Welcome into a Monday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet here. Live from the Noodle, 8 o'clock this morning. The GOAT's dad, the GOAT to the GOAT, Jimmy Burrow will be here at 8 a.m. this morning. We will talk to Mr. Burrow about traveling into Nashville now, as Cincinnati knows what the schedule will be after KC bludgeoned Big Ben out of his career last night and beat up on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Easiest game to predict of the weekend, or was it Tampa-Philly?
That one. Big
Tampa,
Ben is.
Philly?
I mean, you got a ghost of Big Ben out there. Like, Jesus, help the man out.
KC
you
was
got
making
Matt
big
Kennedy
plays.
calling plays for him.
Yeah.
And KC was running, like, all the fuck it plays. They were just, Travis Kelce threw a touchdown, I know, but that's what this is warranted. Travis Kelce throws a touchdown. You have an offensive tackle eligible touchdown. I don't know what tricks they have left in the bag, but KC was letting them know that they're going for the Super Bowl again,
We
boys.
should probably get away with it today as a holiday. The kids are off of school.
Milk Day.
It is federal holiday. Banks are closed. Happy Martin Luther King Day out there, celebrating the King over here on the Jordy Culotta Show, as I know a lot of people are off. You could feel it on the road coming in this morning. Nobody was really moving around out there. So enjoy the holiday, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, and enjoy this Monday. I know the kids will, as they'll be off of school and back at it tomorrow. But we've got a really good show lined up for you. Jimmy Burrow coming up at 8 a.m. Check that, Lloyd. 8:30, we will talk to Billy Embody, who will have a lot of recruiting news for us, obviously, as recruiting comes down. We'll talk about LSU filling out their staff with Cortez Hankton, what that means for now the 10th on-the-field coach, the 10th who'll be wearing a headset on game day, coming from New Orleans. He is a New Orleans native and, of course, has spent the last couple of seasons at the University of Georgia. We will talk to Embody about that. Lots to get to. LSU basketball falls on Saturday to Arkansas with a big road week ahead for the Tigers. Where will they wake up ranked in the country as they fought on Saturday as number 12? They will be, I'd imagine, somewhere around 20, 17 to 20. 17 to 20 maybe after the loss on Saturday. But a trip to Wednesday night to Tuscaloosa and a road trip Saturday to Tennessee is going to be the week ahead for LSU basketball. But they clean up on the recruiting trail over the weekend, adding another 5-star to the mix. Welcome into this morning's Jordy Culotta Show. We're driven and powered every day by Go Chevrolet, and we're brought to you by True Blue Water, of course. And our phone line is brought to you by Metropolitan Health Group. Real doctors, real solutions. Charlie Harvey and Jason Ramazan over at Metropolitan Health Group. Get in touch with them today online. Metropolitan Health Group and Real Doctors, Real Solutions. Coming up, as we said, Jimmy Burrow, 8 a.m. and Billy Embody, 8:30. All compliments of Metropolitan Health Group. Saturday, LSU basketball. We will start there as they fall to Arkansas. We talked a little bit about it last night. We'll get into a lot of stuff here this morning. We appreciate your interaction. Make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button, as we will be here with you until 9 a.m. this morning, talking all things over the weekend. Cody Boudreaux in for a super chat already, as we appreciate you guys starting your day with us here on this Monday. But I thought Darius Days, we can start there with the not so much the bad, because I don't want to dump on Days. He's, I think every player has a day off. Every player has a day where it's just not falling. Every player goes through a stint where they're not playing as good as they once were in the season. And I think Days, not that he's hitting a skid, but Saturday was an outlying performance for him, right? That's not his game. He's going to score more than 3 points. He's going to impact the game in more ways than what he did on Saturday. My only critique would be in the position that he's in as the leader on this team, and where LSU lost Adam Miller in the offseason, whether he wants it or not,
right?
That job role, that responsibility, almost it kind of falls on his shoulders, whether it's accidental or on purpose. It's going to happen, man. And it was tough to see him struggle in that setting, but. That last 9 minutes was as tough to watch of a stretch of LSU basketball, not this season, really underweight.
Yeah.
I mean, because you've never really seen them struggle so mightily like they did. I think they had 5 turnovers in that stretch. It was just bad basketball.
Yeah.
There's no other way to describe it other than it was just poorly played basketball on the floor. And for that, you lose the game. One that you probably should have won. It felt like for the majority of the time that they were going to win that game. And I'm not saying that you invite the win. I'm just saying that it's almost not a good thing, but it's LSU could use the reset.
Yeah.
Right? Like you get back in and you say, okay, look, this is, and Wade kind of mentioned it in his post-game press conference, things have been slipping, right? Things have been going on that they have not been able to really clean up. And finally, you get an opportunity to get that message through after, man, that had to be a good spot for Keith Smart, coming back down to Baton Rouge from Baton Rouge. If you go into the Sports Academy gym under the interstate over there on 22nd and North, you will see a big shot of Smart wearing his Indiana jersey as he left Baton Rouge, went to Indiana, has gone on to coach in the NBA and coach college basketball, and now came home on Saturday as the interim coach or sitting in for Eric Musselman as he was dealing with a shoulder injury that he sustained by running into a player in practice last week. Is that unreal? Yes.
I've never heard of that.
Is that unreal? Did you think he had COVID?
That's what I figured.
Right.
I figured he was just sick.
No, he had a rotator cuff problem because he ran into a player on practice on Thursday.
How hard is this man going at practice? Wow. What is he doing?
It's a good question.
What is he doing? Why are you out? Muscle? I know he's jacked up. Like he's like, good for him, but he's probably my height. He's not a big dude.
No,
but
he's little bitty, actually.
Is he coaching basketball?
Even for a smaller guy like me, like you're like, wow, that dude's small.
He's tiny.
Yeah.
Like I feel comfortable saying that because he would tell me the same thing.
Right.
But is he coaching basketball so he can play basketball? Like, is that what he wants? He'd rather be out there playing than anything. I mean, if you're running around there tearing your labrum as a coach, if you're not tearing it on the whiteboard, cuz I don't know if we really need you out. You're not MJ.
And there was a lot of stuff, even when he was here as an assistant, where you would like go to practice and he'd be in the middle of,
which I like,
of the practice floor doing like burpees and push-ups.
I mean, are we?
And like people were like, what? But I mean, at that time he was the best coach on that team.
Yeah.
Oh, well, don't you remember whenever he left, we were
you were
you're kind of clamoring for
whoa.
another bench coach. Like LSU needs help on whatever Musselman was doing. LSU needs that back. It felt like you really lost a guy. And it turns out he couldn't wait to be a head coach because it is the Musselman show. I think he spells his name SCLE. If you could ask him. Right. What a goob.
But for Smart, man, what a great day of just kind of coaching and being home and your team bailing you out. I mean, Jalen Williams is their best player. He's probably a first-team All-SEC type player. And, I mean, he took over the game. I mean, he made plays on both sides of the floor. Defensively, he made huge plays, and offensively, he knocked down threes. Wade said they missed on the switch, and they left him wide open, and he didn't even hit the rim. That ball rained through.
And he'd only hit like 3 so far that season.
Right.
They left him wide open.
So, look, it's a tough loss, man. That was a tough loss for LSU, and you bounce back, and like I said, there's some things that you can smoke out from the loss on Saturday that I think is going to help LSU out. They're traveling into Coleman Coliseum on Wednesday night. Alabama's coming off of a loss versus Mississippi State on Saturday, which, by the way, look out. Mississippi State looks like they're going to be another SEC team that you're not going to be able to overlook, and just kind of goes into the clearer evidence of how strong of a basketball conference the SEC has really become over the last couple of years because of just the resources, the money, the facilities, everything in there. Mississippi State and Ben Howland got it going on right now, man. They beat Alabama at the hump on Saturday, which is going to have Alabama all pissed off ready on Wednesday. Forget the storylines of Nate Oates and Will Wade. I mean, they're already, these two teams coming off of a loss, for the first time in a while. Both these two teams are not accustomed to losing regularly, so they're both going to be a little annoyed and aggravated as they tip that thing off on Wednesday night. I expect you get both teams' best effort on Wednesday night. As I'd expect
Alabama?
Xavier Pinson to go.
Is it at Alabama?
It's at Alabama, which is a place where LSU has habitually struggled.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I mean, a lot of it was made of Trendon Watford when he would go back home. And you remember the first time that happened, like It was the Darius Days effect, where you felt the weight of the world of going home against Alabama, and Alabama absolutely knew that Trinidad Watford was in the building, and they kind of swallowed him up. But now that he's not on the team, I expect, maybe not as much pressure going there, but I think the real storyline is Nate Oates and Will Wade.
Sure. Well, I think that these two programs and coaches have been each other's neck since they've landed on campus, whether it be through recruiting, on the field stuff, or on the floor stuff that's been happening. They have really not run from the attention that they get from one another, that they put on each other's program. So I can't wait to watch them on Wednesday night.
They're both playing the same game.
And look, LSU is not in trouble. I don't think that there's any sense to panic. I don't think that there is an emergency button that needs to be hit because of what we saw on Saturday. I think that was just a team that fell into an offensive funk that, they couldn't find their way. It was just very clunky. It was it was hard to watch, really, because of the ability that those guys have, and some of those turnovers were just so brutal. I mean, the turnover at the end of the game on Saturday was just, man, that was tough to watch in film room on Sunday.
Yeah.
That was tough. Yeah. I mean, the last 9 minutes as a player yesterday was probably felt like 100 years watching it on film, just because, I mean, nothing went right. Nothing went right. Outside of Fudge's dunk, which was a great highlight with about 3 minutes left.
We thought the roof was going to come off the place.
That's when I thought the momentum was about to shift.
Well, it really kind of did. That's when they got the turnover, but they Mwani just couldn't squeeze it.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't make the play, and that's okay, man. I bet that Mwani Wilkinson makes the play more than he does not make the play. And on Saturday, he didn't make the play, and that's just sports, man. That's how it happens, and sometimes the ball doesn't roll your way, and I think that they're going to be okay for it. But the week ahead is going to test them, very, very much. I mean, with a road trip to Alabama and then a turnaround trip to Tennessee, and Tennessee looks like they're on the ropes. Kentucky hung 100 on them on Saturday at Rupp. And that was after LSU had kind of bludgeoned them earlier that week, last Saturday. But so, it's going to be a hell of a week ahead for LSU. But like we've talked about a long time, you can't hide in the SEC. You can't hide in SEC basketball. You can't run from anybody. I mean, even the good teams. Ole Miss had Auburn down on Saturday night at halftime. I watched the second half of that game because Buffalo and New England was already pretty much said and done. Yeah, it was a terrible game. Buffalo looks really legit. But Auburn was down at half to Ole Miss, and Jabari Smith just went lottery pick in the second half and proved why you need a superstar, why you need – I think Auburn's going to be the number one team in the country today, and deservedly so. I mean, Baylor lost twice last week. They were the number one team in the country. UCLA got beat last week in the Pac-12. So I think that there's going to be a major shakeup within the top, of the rankings in college basketball, and I think Auburn is the number one team in the country. I told little Jay when we left Auburn Arena a couple of weeks back, I said, bro, that's the number one team in the country. I'm telling you. You know why? Because they got everything you need to be successful. They got a shot protector or a rim protector in Walker Kessler, who's probably the best player in the country. I'm trying to find – I don't watch a lot of basketball outside of the conference, but I know that there's some guys – Chet Holmgren around the UCLA's got a couple of high-end players, but, I mean, Duke's got Banchero, who's he feels like a top 3 pick.
Right.
But when you watch Auburn play, I mean, Kessler feels like he's the best player on that team, and Jabari Smith feels like he's the best player in the country.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's tough to describe how good those two guys are for Auburn, because when you watch them play, like I watched Auburn play on Saturday night in the second half versus Ole Miss, those two guys took over the game. Like Jabari Smith was hitting like Kevin Durant type three-pointers where he was dribbling the ball up the floor at 6'10" and pulling up behind the three-point line like coming off of a crossover. It's like stuff that you're like, holy cow, bro. Like that's the number one pick.
Yeah.
He looks like the number one. He looks like Kevin Durant. Some of his game has that anywhere he can just take the ball. On Saturday versus Ole Miss, he had a couple of catch and shoots and a couple of pull-ups that looked like KD, where you were just like, I mean, even the announcers were like, wow. I mean, you can play and practice for 100 years. You can't teach that stuff, man.
How did he get out of Baton Rouge?
Well, he's from Atlanta.
He's from Atlanta, but his dad.
And John Brady and Jabari Smith had a great interaction after the game, and we actually ran into Jab at the game as well. Lil J took a picture with him. I put it up on social media, and he looked fantastic, bro. I mean, like he looks almost identical to what he did at LSU. I mean, like he is in tip-top shape, bro. Still looks like he could ball. But he told me and he told Brady, he said, man, I listen to your show all the time. You do a great job. It's easy to catch up with LSU stuff by listening to your show. And then Brady called me the next day and said, Jabari told me he saw you guys on the way out. He had a great message for me. I said, Coach, he told me the same thing. And what he said was, he said, spread this message on your airwaves, man. Tell the people that we love Baton Rouge. We love LSU. I love LSU. I loved my time at LSU. But I'm living in Atlanta. I work there, and I want to watch the kid play. And it's an hour-and-a-half drive from Atlanta, from his front door in Atlanta to Auburn's Coliseum, to Auburn's Arena. And as a father, if you're listening to this, if you're a parent and you're out there, can't you, when he said that, I mean, it was like, psst, he let the air out. I mean, you know, when we first ran up on him, we were like, Jab, how the hell does this kid
going on?
End up at Auburn? Right? Like, I mean, like he's going to be the number one pick in the draft. And think about what LSU would look like with that kid on the team.
That's the difference.
Oh, he's from number 12 to number 1 in the country.
Yeah.
Like he makes you that type of team. And that's what he does for Auburn. Watching them on Saturday night, like he is that X factor where Kessler is, he's a monster. He is a beast. They're such a tough matchup. They are such a nightmare of a matchup.
Especially for LSU.
A lot of people. I mean, like you could see Ole Miss played so over their skis on Saturday night. They cannot play any better than they did on Saturday. They were at home. Place was behind them. It was rocking. They had Auburn on the ropes at halftime. They even came out in the second half and hit a couple of, you know what I mean? We were like, wow, okay.
We're in a ball game.
And then Auburn was just like, fellas, let's go. Turn this thing up. And Kessler started swatting shots, and Jabari Smith's hitting pull-up threes, and they're knocking down. Defensively, they're there. Pearl's going nuts on the sideline, and you're like, hey, man, this is
March.
This is the cat. This is the team right here. This is the team that is built for this whole deal.
And I know we talked about it a little bit last night, but that's the difference. That's what LSU is missing. If you put Jabari on LSU, then LSU might be the number 1 team in the country because you have that one guy that you can go to and get a bucket, and LSU is dying for that. You saw how important Brendan Murray was because he fouls out, and then you just see a whole lot of them passing the ball back and forth. And if there's one guy that's not going to let it happen too much, it's Eric Gaines. He's like, just give me that thing. I'll go take shots.
Yeah, I mean, he shot the ball 14 times, and Easton shot it 8 times. Day shot it 8 times. Like those guys need to shoot the ball more, especially without Murray on the floor, no Pinson, and no Adam Miller. I mean, the offense kind of falls on those 3 guys a lot of the time because a lot of Tari's stuff is in transition.
When he dunked, I thought he was good. I thought it was over.
Me too.
Cut the lights.
Me too. I thought it was over too.
And it's just and it shows you how important an offensive rhythm is because they didn't have one from the jump and from the tip off. They had 0 offensive rhythm, and it just fell apart from there.
LSU can't sustain any more injuries. Like, you can't lose to Brendan Murray anymore. You have to get X back. Like, anything. Milwaukee Wilkinson's defense is unbelievable. Like, he said it. He set out and said he wanted to be, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He'll probably end that conversation. It'll probably be your boy from Auburn.
Yeah.
Like,
it'll probably be Toshibwe from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we took him to church. But I'm just saying.
I tell you what, Kentucky looked good.
Yeah. Everybody has their role. It's just a matter of getting everybody back. Like, you need Xavier Pinson, especially in games like that, to be able to run the point and just
calm it down.
Calm it down, boys. We're good. Hold on. We're winning. We're at home.
Right, absolutely.
Let's capitalize on where we are in the spot. Like, Days isn't hot. That's somebody, like, when you're a point guard and a pass-first point guard, kind of like X can be, he'll be able to get Days an easy bucket. You know, like back cut, hit him with a bounce pass, stuff like that. And Gaines has done a great job considering the role he's been put in. But you can tell that this team is better with Xavier Pinson. That's why you go get him. I mean, there was I think it was Aaron Torres on Twitter that put out after the LSU win against Florida with all the foul trouble that look at what Will Wade's done. He gets a guy that averaged 8 points at Cincinnati and Tari Easton and makes him a lottery pick.
Yeah.
He gets a guy that was sitting the bench at Missouri at the end of the year and makes him a starting point guard at LSU. So he's built this team. He's put these pieces in specific places.
Right.
It's just a matter of having them all together.
Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by GoFlow, G-E-A-U-X, flowiv.com. Get over and see our friends over at GoFlow IV and Spa, where they're Baton Rouge's premier medical spa who specializes in IV hydration treatments with vitamin infusion. Located at 7970 Jefferson Highway and online at GEAUXflowiv.com. That is GoFlowIV.com. And you can find them on Jefferson Highway. Tell them you heard it here on the Jordy Culotta Show, whether you're looking to help your illness recovery, if you're suffering from chronic dehydration, if you're looking to improve your athletic performance, or after a long weekend. I know Mardi Gras ball started over the weekend, so if you're looking to get some energy heading into the week because you left it all
Call me.
at the Mardi Gras ball over the weekend, get in touch with GoFlow IV. GoFlowIV.com, GEAUXflowiv.com. Memberships available, 3-month, 6-month, annual memberships. And that was a transition into, we were talking about players and guys that they can't afford to get hurt anymore for LSU basketball. They picked up another top 15 player on Saturday, and Marvell Allen announced on ESPN Saturday night, and I can just picture Pat Forty, Dan Walken, Dick Vitale sitting in their serial killer dressed closet with all the NCAA garb on the wall.
Other people's skin.
In a very dark room with no windows.
Big Polaroid room.
Yeah, very well lit. If we could get any recommendations on the lighting, we'd appreciate that, fellas. But just breaking pencils as LSU gets another 5-star. This will be the 6th straight class that Will Wade has had a 5-star represented in his recruiting class, as Marvell Allen pledged to LSU on Saturday night. It was a good look for the Tigers as well, and it was a really good look for Will Wade, as Allen was pressed on why he chose LSU over schools like Alabama and Kentucky and Texas and North Carolina and Auburn, who was in the mix. And it was really a just love fest and a showering of love to Will Wade. I mean, it was just how he builds relationships and gets these guys. And look, man, I know that there are jokes out there, and I kind of got caught up in it on social media on Saturday after the.
Oh no!
Yeah, I kind of fell into it on Saturday.
What triggers you? What gets you? Because you're not very active on social, but when you do, it's always a bomb that you're ready to drop.
Just the mood, you know what I mean? You just kind of how you catch me.
Spider-Man, I didn't like the ending. Let me get to social.
But it was just, it was a federal government joke about, like where's the link?
Right.
Where is that happening? And he and I kind of went back and forth for a little bit, but I mean, I know that people out there sense that and see that, but if you just listen to what the players are saying, and if you look at the evidence, I mean, the guy is doing it, man. I mean, he is a relationship builder that Marvell Allen really spelled out on ESPN on Saturday night that I thought was a great testimony and really kind of PSA, for LSU basketball. I mean, they kind of dominated that game after Allen made his announcement. All they really talked about was, I mean, they kind of kept going back to Allen and LSU and how he had chosen. It was a really good show of public relations for LSU basketball, if for nothing else, as Will Wade gets another 5-star into the class.
Hate to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, and he is a bucket getter.
Yeah.
Like, he's an offensive,
I
attacker.
could use him now.
Yeah. Like, he's
I think they're trying to reclassify him.
to get him next year.
Yeah.
Because he's like a ball in the hand. He's not like a pass first, really. But, I mean, he just goes and gets buckets, like driving to the cup, pulling up, all of that.
Who is the other 5-star that they have that you...
Julian Phillips.
Julian Phillips.
So they'll have
I mean, they
both?
have raided the state of Florida the last couple of years. I mean, if you think about it, Brandon Murray and Efton Reed are both from Florida, classified as Florida. I know Efton Reed is originally from Virginia, and Murray is originally from Baltimore, but both of those guys were at IMG Academy playing together in Bradenton, Florida. And this year you go in and get Julian Phillips, who's out of the state of Florida. He's the top player, and then Marvell Allen's the second best player. I mean, it just raiding the state of Florida. But I love to see it, man. I love to see it.
So, hold on.
George the Greek. Come on, Jordy. Are you saying that LSU's not bending the rules at all? You have to say these days.
George, you go to Tiger Dropping with that. We know who you are. That's enough, George.
They're not doing anything that anybody else isn't doing that's competitive in that sport. Do you want to be competitive in college basketball? Yes or no? Raise your hand. Yes? Yes? Okay.
How you do it.
All right, because if you don't, Trent Johnson wasn't playing any games in the recruiting world. That's how he had to go get a band member to try out, and he didn't win a conference game. That's what happens when you don't play the games in college basketball. Anybody who is competitive in college basketball is playing the game. And that's just the facts. So, I mean, read it how you want to read it, George. But I'm just telling you that everybody in that sport is filthy, disgusting, makes college basketball look like, or makes college football look like church on Sunday. College basketball does. That world is grimy. And everybody who's competitive within that sport is playing the game. If you're in the top 25, I'd venture to say that you're playing the game. And yeah, that's just how it is. And if you don't want to accept that, I can't help you, bro. I mean,
where are those people?
I got some property I'd like to sell you.
Exactly.
For sure.
Like, what do you think is going on? You know, like, you have to have that conversation eventually with yourself. Like, the people that are, and this even goes into college football. Like, what do you think? The pageantry and all of the people that, like, right, for the love of the game, like, that shit went out the window a long, long time ago. Right. And just to be that naive has to be, like you said, I can sell you some property. Santa Claus is coming. Like, you need to come on the 25th every year.
Exactly.
Like, do you not go buy your kids Christmas gifts?
Like that article in the Gainesville Sun the day after LSU left Florida and they beat
Softy.
And the guy was talking about how it's so depressing to watch SEC basketball when guys like Matt White are doing it right and cheaters like Will Wade and Bruce Pearl are succeeding. I mean, like, I've been going at that guy. I've been trying to get him on the show.
Get him on the show.
Yeah, but he's got no DMs open in his Twitter.
I would close my Twitter too
if
after
I
a
was
take
writing
like
those
that.
articles, I'd have my DMs closed as well.
I know, but I'm openly going at, like, in the open space, like, help me get there. I think like Don Whittington or something. I mean, just, hey, Donnie.
Don.
Like, what do you think Billy Donovan was doing to get
Don,
Yoki and Noah out of Paris, bro?
And come back.
Yeah, right. Like, Al Horford's he's coming back. The guy's a top 3 pick. I mean, what do you think was going on?
Corey Brewer.
What do you think Herb was doing when he was running Florida's program? It's just a joke, bro. All right, remember, over here, we're driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. All right, NFL playoffs, man, over the weekend. Burrow and the boys.
Goodness
Burrow,
gracious.
my God.
They scared me in the second half.
They
started playing safe, and I was like, this is not how you play Joe Burrow. You don't do safe play calling. You just let him go.
First time in 31 years that the Bengals win a playoff game. You could feel the excitement. I had a cousin that was in Cincinnati for the game, and he had sent back some video. We posted that video on social media, and you can see just the pure elation of people just releasing this 31-year drought of playoff NFL football that they have now overcome. I mean, they win the game on Saturday. It's got some controversy in it, and we can talk a little bit about the controversy, but I mean, Burrow's going to make that play, man. I mean, we talked about this last night. It felt like Joe Montana. It felt like you were watching like one of those moments be created that you will see on NFL films for a long time. Obviously, Montana and Clark hooked up for the catch in 1982 versus the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, and Burrow and was it Tyler Boyd hook up for this catch as Burrow's running out of bounds, and a half a step before he steps on the paint, he makes this perfect throw to Boyd in the back of the end zone. Now, in between the throw and the catch, there's an inadvertent whistle. By these clown shows that are calling NFL football. I mean, these guys are all over the place, all over the storylines, and getting in the way of their performances here, and step up on Saturday and get in the way. But Burrow creates this moment, and Cincinnati's going nuts, and they win the game. And like I said, there's controversy surrounding it, but we're just going to stick with the positives on it. And Burrow and the Bengals, they now go into Tennessee, which Derrick Henry looks like that he is going to be back on this divisional round weekend, which is a hell of a matchup for Cincinnati. And the Bengals defense has to improve, has to play better. But Jamar had 9 catches for over 115 yards as he was chopping up the defensive backfield on Saturday. And like he said in the post-game press conference, ain't nobody can check me. You know, I mean, that's a rookie wide receiver speaking to NFL defensive backs, whether you're a veteran, a mid-lifer in the league, or whether you're a rookie like Jamar is. There's not anybody on the planet right now from a one-on-one defensive standpoint that can guard Jamar Chase in football. And like Joe Burrow said on Saturday, if they try it, I'm throwing it to him because he's going to win the fight. And what Cincinnati has going on right now, man, feels very LSU 2001-ish. Feels LSU 2000-ish. If you were a fan and could experience those days, if it was the New Orleans Saints in 2006 when you were like, oh, my God, we are going to be good for a while.
We got a guy.
You're like, we got a dude. We got Breeze. We got Peyton. We're going to be relevant. We're going to be competitive. There's nowhere that you won't take these guys that you won't say, let's play. And Burrow, Chase, and even Zach Taylor to a degree.
Well, see, that's where I'm going to stop you. Don't let Joe Burrow do this to you again. We said this about Ed Orgeron and Joe Brady, and both of them are on their ass right now. Right. So it feels like Burrow might be covering up a lot of warts of what you can do. I feel like I could call plays for the Bengals, and Burrow would just be able to figure it out. But what he did do well, and I'm not shitting on Zach Taylor. I feel like he's done a good job of bringing like the locker room and like letting them know like this is the come up. Like this is what it feels like to become a winner. But Joe Burrow covers up a lot of warts, as we've come to know. But what he did do well on the offensive side is get Jamar Chase involved early. First two throws were to Jamar. They were starting to use him a little bit like Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. Just
toss it to him.
Get that freak the football.
Toss him. Yeah, like on that fourth down where they just toss it to him. You see, I mean, once he's in the open field, I mean, he's a running back.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
get him the ball. It's
let him touch
it's
it.
Big Island. It is little league football. Like, who's your best player? Get him the football because he's not going to do anything wrong.
So the divisional round is set. There is football tonight, which is crazy. NFL, right? Monday night playoff
Sneaky
football.
Best matchup.
It's a great matchup between Los Angeles, the Rams. McVay and the Rams are going to be taking on Kingsbury and the Cardinals, and this will be a matchup between Kyler Murray, the young up-and-coming quarterback, versus the established Matthew Stafford, who's looking for his first playoff win. First playoff win of his career is Stafford looking for as he's coming out of the doldrums of Detroit as he was down there for so many years or up there so many years and not winning any type of postseason games. Was it the 2011 national championship between LSU and Bama that Detroit and the Saints hooked up for a playoff game on Saturday night and Bama and LSU played on Monday night? Was that right?
I think so.
Was that right?
Yes. Obviously, LSU the Saints beat Detroit, but it was
Detroit.
close. Yeah. It was like a closer game.
Because I remember when we showed up to the Natty on that Monday, they were like still painting the fields.
No, they're working with the turf.
They were still painting the fields.
Which we don't know how they get the paint off. Nobody ever got back to me on that.
Dumb question, bro. I don't know.
They have apparently they got some lacquer they put on the field, but what a weekend for the Superdome, and I feel like Arizona Rams, like there was a time when you thought that could have been the NFC Championship, and now they're playing in essentially a wild card game.
Yeah, wild card. So the winner of that game between Los Angeles and Arizona will advance to play Brady and the Bucs as Brady and the Bucs roll through Philly. So that'll set up that matchup tonight. The AFC side, the other NFC matchup is San Francisco Green Bay as the 49ers go into Cowboy Stadium and beat Dak and the Cowboys yesterday. Another controversial game that the referees are going to have to answer questions for. The NFL is going to be asked questions about in the officiating. I know that they can overcome this, and this is $1 billion business, but I mean, the officials are too much of the storyline, right? Yeah. I mean, it feels like every week there's a storyline about the officials, and now here in the in the wild card round, where they highlight more games than, you're talking about them in multiple games from the weekend. I mean, that just really and truly, I know that this has been said about NFL officiating when you critique them, but I mean, that just can't happen. It really can't. I mean, you produce too much money in this sport. There's too much on the line. There's too much interest in gambling dollars that are exchanging hands, whether it's illegally or illegally now. But I mean, there's so much invested interest in this sport that the officials making mistakes like they do, I know it's human, man. I know that there is a human element to it, and that stuff is moving at warp speed in front of your eyeballs when you're standing down there on the playing surface and having to govern that. But there's got to be a better way. There has to be a better way than what the plan that's in place now.
This goes to the fact that they're not like full-time employees, right? Remember when they went to this whole thing?
One.
Yes. They went through this whole thing about like cheese board and charcuterie boards about what the NFL like officials wanted in the locker room before the game, and the NFL was like, put the kibosh on that. It's like, do you realize that how important the officials are to the NFL? Like they're a bunch of old men trying to. I mean, you saw it in the Cowboys game. You've got this 55-year-old man sprinting down, running through Dak Prescott and the center to make sure he can touch the football so he can play football. Like, does that really need to be the rule? We can't have a side judge running. Where is everybody? Like, that wasn't on the Dallas Cowboys. That's on the officiating crew not being ready for the moment of like, all right, they're going to, I know you can't be ready for a quarterback draw, neither was the defense, but you have to be able to be like, all right, where is everybody? This guy was 55 yards back behind Dak. Yeah. Like, and when he's taking off, you have to take off right behind him. And there's no way to really fix it because football, while it's the most modern sport that it's ever been, is the most antiquated sport in the same time of what they're trying to do with, I mean, we've all talked about the chain gang and what that was. Right. They respotted the ball in another game just to make it sure it was like, they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing.
They're doing it on the fly.
I think that was the same game.
It was the same game.
Because they wanted to keep the Cowboys in it, I'd imagine.
I'd imagine so.
But like that is unbelievable, the things that they're fighting with technology whenever they have 8K cameras out there that you could read Jimmy Garoppolo's gray hairs off the side of his head, and we're looking at old men jog across the field again. And like the reason that they couldn't get the playoff is because the referee was too far away. Like if he's close, you get the playoff.
Yeah, well, you definitely get one.
Because they get to spike it and get to throw.
Yeah.
Calvin Dudley with a $20 super chat saying that that's going towards the Relief Med Fund. We appreciate that, Calvin. Cody Boudreaux, I don't know if you guys upgraded the lenses or bodies or both, but the cameras look great.
$20.
Thank you, Cody, with the $5 chat. New camera.
New camera.
Yeah, a couple of new cameras, new views.
Oh, dude, should we show them off?
Yeah, why not?
You want to see? You want to see Noah? Because he's over here. Hey, you see Jordy? He's over here. Yeah.
Easy on that zoom.
Too zoomed?
Nah, too zoomed last night.
Oh, you mean this one? See, this is what the NFL is dealing with.
Wolf neck, bro.
Oh. At least you don't have the double chin. That's what I have.
I think I do.
Whoa.
Damn, dude. Watch what you show. Yeah. Easy
over there. Easy over there. There we go again. Oh, there's me. This is unbelievable.
It really is.
The technology. All right, tour of the room.
But the referees from the Bengals game,
they're done.
Expected to, but the NOLA no call ref.
Did he call the Super Bowl?
He called the Super Bowl last year.
Did he really?
Well, didn't he have relationships with somebody? Isn't he like his daddy did something?
I have no idea, but still.
On what? The Dallas game yesterday?
Yeah.
Is it Hockley's?
No, it wasn't Hockley. It was somebody else, but it's another one of those officials that like the fact that we know their name is a bad thing. Yeah. But he's a legacy official. And what they're having to do to cover up. Did you see how they call the game like and the referees jog off the field?
Sprint.
Game's over. We're out of here. Sprint
off the field.
It's in Dallas where they have all those fans that where you have to walk through the tunnel. They're beating on the glass. Like you have to go see them anyway. It is a WWE moment. We're like, oh, we got to get out of here.
Keep your hats down, boys.
Yeah. This is not a good moment.
Keep your heads down. Just keep it moving, man. Keep it moving.
Unreal. But isn't that sad that that's the storyline, really? It's like two officiating calls where for the Bengals, it wasn't even close to stepping out of bounds. Like, trust Joe Burrow in that situation. Like, let the play live, and then you can go back and review it, right? Yeah. Like, if you call it a touchdown.
Like, that would be my thing. If there was the luxury of review, like, your first instinct has to be let the play.
Breathe.
Because we can always go back and overrule. Right? Or I don't know what
they're too deep.
Yeah.
They're too lost. They're lost in the snake.
It's like, what's a catch?
Right.
I mean, they can't even define what a catch is.
And then it gets amped up even more in the playoffs because they review everything. And it goes to, they have so many instant replays. And it's just like, well, you look like he bobbled it. Like, let football be football. If it's even close to cool, keep it on. Let that thing breathe. Let the game play. It's so frustrating.
It is.
And there's only going to be more of it.
Yeah, I know. Well, as the games,
and they survive it every time.
As the games get bigger, those moments get tighter
because they know everybody's watching.
Right, and that is, that's really what sets these moments up. So it'll be interesting to see how the NFL handles this. But I did hear that Jerome Booger's staff, I think it's Jerome Booger's name.
Boog's out.
Yeah, is the
not expected
is the referee and his crew that is not expected to get any more games after.
What are you going to do with the Cowboys crew?
I don't know.
You're going to run out.
I don't know.
Try to get old Ed back Hockley out there with Booger.
We will talk to Jimmy Burrow here coming up at 8 o'clock this morning about what it's like to be in Cincinnati and getting in that stadium on Saturday for the Bengals and what that atmosphere was like in that win over the Raiders and what to expect this weekend versus Tennessee. If you got a question for Coach Burrow, he'll be here at 8 o'clock. Make sure to get it in. 8:30 this morning, we'll talk to Billy Embody as we'll talk to Embody about what's left for LSU football and recruiting as Cortez Hankton was just announced as the new wide receivers coach and new on-the-field coach for LSU. He becomes the 10th on the staff, so that'll round out Brian Kelly's staff on the field. And we'll ask Embody on what type of effect he can have on the recruiting trail. Hankton is a New Orleans native from South Louisiana, has been at the University of Georgia the last couple of years recruiting that roster and had some success down here. In recruiting Louisiana. They had a commitment from John Emery for a while during recruiting.
Was that him, you think?
That was Hankton for sure. That was definitely Hankton. He flipped Jermaine Burton from LSU to Georgia on National Signing Day a couple of years back. And I know that there's not a lot of development that you can look at on Georgia's offense that you say, wow, I'd love to have that at my school. But there has been, in my opinion, Jermaine Burton has gotten better. I don't watch a lot of Georgia, but, I've watched them enough to know that Burton has gone from a guy that you've asked, where is he, to making big plays. I even think that George Pickens, in the way that he was developed and the way that he improved on Georgia's campus while he was there, is a testimony to Hankton. As he was the wide receivers coach and the passing game coordinator there, he got banged up and hurt. But, when Pickens... I watched Pickens play in that SEC championship game in 2019, and Stingley played great that day. And for whatever reason, Georgia kept going at Stingley, and Stingley made them pay. But in that second half, Pickens was suspended because if you remember the week before against Georgia Tech, he had gotten thrown out of the game because he got in a fight with a cornerback.
He went Alshon Jeffrey.
He went nuclear. And so he had to miss the first half of the SEC championship. And in the second half, he had like 8 grabs.
First play of the game, first play of the second half, they went right to him. You could see, okay, this is what they were. If they have him the entire game, I don't think LSU loses, but I think it's a totally different just feel for the game. Was that an NCAA suspension or a team rule suspension for Pickens?
That would have been a league rule because he got thrown out.
There's no way that they would have sat him.
No chance. Kirby Smart ain't doing that, man.
Right.
I think he got thrown out of the second half of a game, which means that you have to miss that second half and then you miss the first half of the next game. The Devin White scenario against Mississippi State, where he had to miss the Alabama game. The first half of it.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
On a terrible call.
Hands first.
Yeah, well, he hit him in the chin, too. It wasn't even like he went helmet to helmet.
That was when they didn't know what they were doing with the targeting rule. And he has to sit, and it's LSU, probably your best player on the team, who's having probably the best season, or probably in the SEC. He's going to be a top 5 pick, and you take him out, and then LSU fans all convince themselves. They're like, no, this is when he comes out of the halftime, put him on the horse, put him on Daisy Maid and come out for the second half. It's no, dude, if you don't have him for a half of football against Alabama, you have no shot. It was brutal calls, but they're getting that figured out too, it feels like.
So Hankton and Frank Wilson, those two guys together, recruiting the state of Louisiana, to me is a scary proposition for the rest of the league. It really is, man. I think that the fence really got higher around New Orleans with the hire of Hankton becoming official to LSU, with having those two guys camped out in South Louisiana. It is going to be tough to get through to LSU right now. And I think that even Saban and Jimbo Fisher and Kirby Smart and Billy Napier and some of the dominant recruiters in college football know that with Hankton joining the staff at LSU, that just makes Louisiana that much tougher of a state to get into. In fact, you saw Kyron Lacey, the talented UL wide receiver over the weekend, become 7 of 8 transfers LSU has picked up in the portal. Major Burns was here for the national championship during our watch party, and he was talking about the work that LSU was about to get after in the transfer portal. And look up, man. Look, I know that we can debate on star power and player capability and all of this stuff when we're talking about these transfers in. But the fact is that LSU's numbers are depleted, and all of these guys are going to have to play. Yesterday it was announced that Dwight McGlotherin's leaving. He's going to Arkansas. LSU's picked up 2 DBs from Arkansas, and Greg Brooks and Joe Fauché. Both those guys got to play. Kyron Lacey, the talented wide receiver from UL, he's stepping into a room where he's going to have to play. You know, I mean, I know that wide receiver room is dripping with talent, but Lacey's the type of talent that can step in and give you a veteran presence and step in there and play. I mean, look, LSU beat out Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Florida for Lacey. He was a guy out of Thibodeau that came onto the scene very late because he didn't start playing football until, I believe he was a junior. Up until that point, he was a big-time basketball prospect. And he decided to play football. Napier and the crew get in there, get him down to Lafayette, and really develop him. I mean, look at the amount of UL players that are in the portal that are making impacts on people's roster that they're going after. I mean, people recognize that development has happened on Lafayette's campus for the past 5 years under Billy Napier.
How excited would people be if Billy Napier was? Would you think that changes expectations of who you brought in? If Billy Napier was the head coach at LSU and he brings in all of his UL guys, wouldn't people kind of be bucking back a little bit, being like, oh, he's bringing UL talent to LSU? Like he's trying to you don't want to fight that fight, but it feels like it's the opposite. Like he was building an absolute powerhouse down there, 4-star guys that could have played on probably a bigger level. And the only thing that shocks me is that they were all offered by Florida, right? And they decided to stay. That's the Louisiana ties, right?
I would think so. I think it's Frank Wilson.
Right.
I mean,
for Frank Wilson to be able to beat out their former head coach for recruiting is unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And, I mean, to your point on Napier, I think that LSU's fan base right now is in such a buy-in mode to, whoever got the job of, kind of rehauling and
following you blindly.
Whatever you want to do, man, whether it's get rid of Corey Raymond or, not retain Dwight McGlothrin, whatever it is, I mean, just people are buying into the plan and buying into the direction and the vision that
you have to.
Kelly is selling right now.
And I was one of the staunchest critics of Brian Kelly. Like, whenever he came in, I thought the Corey Raymond thing was a massive mistake, but he's double backed, and he realizes, I don't know if people got in his ear, but for them to be able to lock down Louisiana became very important very quickly. So you see who the people he has, like, kind of put on staff that are able to lock down New Orleans and the surrounding area. And so I'm alligator walking with BK. I'm with it. We'll get the get together.
Devonta Lee was the latest wide receiver who put his name in the portal from LSU's standpoint. Lee has kind of been a guy of, he really couldn't find a home on LSU's roster. I mean, he's so talented of a player that they've put him at linebacker, they've put him at tight end, they've put him at wide receiver, they've put him all over the place. And, I think that, he's going to a place where he's going to try and find some stability, but LSU needed to get Kyron Lacey in from a wide receiver standpoint because you just needed, you needed a veteran presence in that room. You got a lot of youngsters, a lot of talent. But Lacey is a guy I think that's going to step in and play some real, a lot of minutes. He's going to play, he's going to play a lot of football at LSU. I don't know how much all of these transfers impact their position. And, I saw that they got a linebacker from Virginia over the weekend, Weston Weeks.
Seemed like a Brian Kelly guy.
A former 3-star out of Georgia. In fact, he went to the same high school that Max Johnson went to in Georgia. He became the 8th transfer that LSU has picked up out of the portal. So LSU has been very active.
Well, they have to fill the spots. That's when you start going after guys like a Weston Weeks, where it's like, we got too many roster spots. They got to get to 85. Guys, how many scholarship players did they have? 30? 39 for a bowl game that you essentially felt like you had to play for some reason. So you're going to start filling out, like, this is filling out special teams.
Yeah.
Like, these are guys that are going to run down on kick. Do you know where they are in terms of people transferring out of LSU? Do you know if, there was, it seemed like the wide receiver room was the most volatile because they're the most talented.
Yeah.
Do you think that they're still kind of, where's Deion Smith? Is he on campus? Is he at Ole Miss? He seems to be.
I think that they're going to get Deion Smith
back.
in. Yeah, I think. And look, school starts tomorrow for LSU. So it's going to be a quick. Yeah.
Wait, do you have to go to school tomorrow?
I got to go to class tomorrow.
What time?
Well, they're doing like online. Like teachers have the option.
Virtual.
So I got a virtual class tomorrow at 10. So.
What subject?
Spanish.
Ooh. What is it? Duolingo, dude. Just Google Translate. Type that thing in.
Like Spanish, like 101 or?
I did 1101 second semester last year, so I'm 1102. So the second.
This is what made me drop out of mass comm. Walked in, walked out. Dude, como esta? I was like, I don't even know what that one means. Dude, I'm done.
Me llama out. Daily, we're brought to you by
I can't even respond to that.
Hub International Insurance. Remember, Hub International Insurance. The Baton Rouge office is part of Hub International Gulf South region. And over here in Baton Rouge, the insurance office is dedicated team of insurance brokers that can help you craft tailored employee benefits, personal and business insurance solutions to meet all of your unique needs. HubInternational.com is where you find them online. And as we said, they're located right here off of Essen Lane over in Baton Rouge. You can get in touch with them, 225-218-2400, 218-2400 if you're looking for help in the business sector with insurance or help with employee benefits or even personal insurance. Get in touch with Hub International of Baton Rouge. Hub International is locally here, 225-218-2400, 225-218-2400 to get in touch with an experienced professional this morning over at Hub International Insurance. You can find them at hubinternational.com. We'll get ready for the second hour as we set up Coach Jimmy Burrow. He will be here in 5 minutes. When we come back, we'll have Coach Burrow and we'll talk to him about the exciting time around around Cincinnati right now, as the Bengals now know that they will be taking on the Tennessee Titans this weekend. The only game still yet to be determined in the NFL playoffs is going to be on the NFC side, as tonight the Los Angeles Rams host the Arizona Cardinals. The winner of that game will have a cross-country trek to take on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So we will wait and see who wins tonight to who's going where, but we know everything else. Green Bay is going to host San Francisco in the other NFC matchup. On the AFC side, Kansas City and Buffalo is going to be a tremendous divisional round matchup. That game is in KC. Is that right?
I think they're
Let me check.
ranked higher.
Let me check.
Because that changes the game for me.
At KC.
Yeah, if it's in Buffalo, then you feel like Buffalo has a better chance to win, not because of the dildos, but because of Josh Allen's ability to play in the cold.
Yeah.
But KC, the Red Sea over there, and
Arrowhead.
At Arrowhead. Like that's a big time home field advantage.
Yeah.
Like probably one of the best in the NFL, and you get Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce caught a touchdown, threw a touchdown, and he went over 100 yards. I think he was the first player in some sort of history to do something like that.
I didn't know how long he had been at KC, man. He's been there for a while. He's
Starting
the longest
to age.
tenured player there, I know. So the lineup is like this. Burrow and the Bengals get the 3:30 slot on Saturday, which I kind of love. As Burrow and Tennessee will be taking on the Titans in Nashville. Saturday night, it'll be Green Bay hosting San Francisco. And then on Sunday, it'll be that game which will be determined by tonight's outcome, Los Angeles and or Arizona taking on Tampa Bay. And then the nightcap, the 4-hole hitter was going to be Buffalo and Kansas City on Sunday night.
Do you know the spreads to any of these games?
No, do you?
Yeah, I'm looking right at them.
What's if I'm guessing here, we got to get to Burrow here in a couple of minutes. Tennessee 3.5.
Are you spot on, dude?
Is it really?
Yeah, okay. the Paisan's coming out.
All right.
Bookmaker.
Green Bay -6.
5.5. Are you looking at these?
I'm not.
He's not.
He's not looking at them.
5.5.
I'm not looking at this. 6.
What have you been doing?
Buffalo, KC 2.
No fucking. Are you kidding me, dude?
Wow.
What, do you have any picks?
I will in the second hour.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll talk to Jimmy Burrow, the coach, right here on the Jordy Culotta
really
Show.
I'm
not looking at him.
Not looking at him.
At the driven and powered by Ghost Chevrolet. We'll be
show
right
me your
back.
laptop. What are you doing over there? Nothing. Yo, it's our sports center.
Papa Earl's, the fine spice originating right down here in South Louisiana by our guy Mark Pop Norman. Developed it back in 2018 and won Amazon's Newcomer of the Year in 2019. They pride themselves in having 30% less salt and sodium than the leading brands at the same price point. You can find them locally. Look for Papa Earl's at Rouse's, Calandro's, Mathern's, High Neighbor, and more. True Blue Water, true hydration at its finest. Right now, you're only a few minutes away from getting your 5-gallon water delivered to you, just like we are over here at the UDL. All you got to do is log on to truebluewater.com. That's TRU, bluewater.com. The website's fantastic over at truebluewater.com. You can get your service and find out how quick it is. You can schedule a delivery, even hop on the billing system right there at truebluewater.com. TRU, bluewater.com. Papa Earl's, gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet here on this Monday. We appreciate you being here on this Martin Luther King Day, on this holiday. Happy Dr. Martin Luther King Day to you, wherever you celebrate the holiday. Make sure you hit that like and share button, comment button. What a day on Saturday in Cincinnati. I had a cousin who was there who was shooting back some video, and whether he was entering the game, at the game, after the game, all of it looked like just a electric, emotional day for the Midwest, for Cincinnati, for Bengal fans. I mean, it was one of those moments that they'll probably have mile marked for the rest of their life. You'll have kids named Burrow and Chase and Joey and Jamar, I think, by the truckloads after what they have accomplished this year.
White
man.
Jamars running around.
Yeah, no, everywhere in Cincinnati.
My daughter Jamar.
But Burrow and the boys roll on Saturday as they beat the Raiders 26-19 in the postseason for the first Bengals postseason win in 31 years. Incredible.
Unreal.
Nobody surprised down here, but just to watch it play out has been amazing. And we catch up with one of our favorites, man, Coach Jimmy Burrow, as the GOAT to the GOAT is here on this Monday morning. What a time to be alive, sir. Houday. Good morning. How are you?
Who day to you guys, and it was awesome. You know enough about Joe and Jamar not to bet against them, right?
Yeah.
So we had those guys going full speed on Sunday, so that was a good thing.
What's it like, Coach, as just being somebody that's from that area? Forget the fact that it's your son who is the quarterback and is the architect of all of this stuff, but as somebody who has lived in that region for a long time and has seen the down days of being a Bengals fan and know it all too well, you could feel that emotion coming through the television set on Saturday afternoon with that win in hand. What is it like to just be in that area right now?
Well, I was so wrapped up in college football for all those years. We followed the NFL, but we weren't specifically a Bengals fan, but I had a lot of friends, and Joe had a lot of friends that were Bengals fans, and definitely are now. And just to see the reaction in the stands, to be there personally and see that, and then to read all the comments and from really just everybody. I mean, it's pretty amazing that they had gone that long, because they've had some good years over the years, but definitely not for a long time. And just so happy for the Bengals and the city, and really the whole state is bought into Bengal mania right now for sure. So it's awesome.
Joey goes for 244 and 2 touchdowns on Saturday. One of those touchdowns will probably be talked about forever, but who cares? They win and move on. Coach, how good is he playing right now? When you watch him play, he feels like an elite quarterback in the world now. He feels almost in the same vein as the top that do it in the profession. When you watch him play, I know it's hard to take off the dad glass. You got to be so proud, but just as a guy who knows the game, how high of a level is he playing at right now?
Well, he's willing to throw the ball deep and make big plays, but the key in the playoffs that I've been watching all these games is not to turn it over. And he would tell you that the last 4 or 5 weeks, every game's really been a playoff game, and he's done a great job of making sure that he didn't take too many chances, and he didn't give the other team an opportunity to make a big interception. So that's been a big part of his transition over the last several weeks, is to take care of the football. And he's seeing coverages. Gus Bradley for the Raiders is one of my better friends in coaching. We coached together at North Dakota State, and Joe knew going in that it wasn't going to be easy, and he wasn't just going to be able to run up and down the field and throw passes at will. And he was very willing to take what Gus and that defense was going to give him, and it worked out. But he's protecting the ball is the number one thing right now.
You talked about Joe Burrow kind of knowing maybe some of the defenses and maybe using a little bit of your brain to help him through like offensive situations. Every time, have you talked to any of your friends, maybe in the coaching service, like, would you stop zero blitzing Joe Burrow because he's going to beat you every time with it?
Well, I know Gus only blitzed, I think, 3 times totally.
Smart man. He learned from the Ravens.
On Sunday. And they just have a great feel for it. They got 3 weapons with those receivers that they're just hard to cover them all. And Joe, I think, does a really good job of knowing which matchup if they do zero blitz you. But people may do it here in the next few weeks, but they've pretty much given up on that. As I said, I think the Raiders 3 total blitzes the whole game. So I think you have to sprinkle it in sometimes. There's different areas of the field maybe present itself to do it, but it's not something you want to make a habit of doing against the Bengals right now.
What do you make of what Jamar Chase has been able to do in his rookie season as an NFL? I figured at some point he would hit a rookie wall. He has gotten better over the last couple of weeks. What do you make of how good he is?
Well, I'd seen it before, so I can't tell you that I'm surprised. And Joe has known, all along, when the 2 first-team All-Pro receivers are Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. It kind of tells you what we had going for us back there in LSU. But Jamar's a hard worker, and the one thing that I've probably mentioned on this show before that Joe's always said is Jamar is really, really smart. He's gotten so that he definitely, over the years, understands coverages. He listens to Joe. He talks with Joe about what they're seeing and what the opportunities are. And so it's amazing that he's already an NFL superstar. But as I said, it doesn't surprise me. It's just it's been fun to watch. We see his parents periodically, and we're happy for them also. And we're definitely happy that he's on our team.
Got to be some cool celebrations with Jimmy Chase for sure.
Oh yeah, he's fun to be around.
So they gave it to him 3 times on Saturday, and he had 9 catches. You're a defensive mind. How would you defend him?
Well, I mean, you got to know where he is at all times, and you do have to roll up a corner sometimes in his direction, but we make it hard because of T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and Uzama does a good job, and then you still have Joe Mixon. So the weapons are such that if you do decide to double team Jamar, then Joe knows that he can see it pre-snap, and then he's definitely willing to spread the ball around. Just like again at LSU, spread the ball around all the time to all those great receivers we had at LSU, and he's doing the same thing with the Bengals. But Jamar is certainly somebody when he goes in motion, lines up in the backfield, you can see head spinning out there about, hey, where's Jamar? So he takes a lot of pressure off the other receivers, but then those receivers take a lot of pressure off of Jamar not to really start pressing when they double it.
How quickly was that relationship formed between Jamar and Joey? Because Joe Burrow seems like the kind of guy, and you obviously would know this, that he'll let you kind of do whatever, but if you're bought in and you want to be early and you want to work with him, he'll take you under his wing and he'll be your guy. And it seemed like that happened very early on at LSU, and almost was probably the reason that Joe Burrow probably pushed a little bit to get Jamar. So how early on was that, like, I guess, hard work mentality? Like, they probably meshed immediately, I would imagine.
Well, I know that first year, if you can remember, it was a work in progress, but Jamar is I've seen in Jamar's interviews that he said Joe helped him understand coverages, helped him to watch film. So I know, talking to Joe, he knew he was just an incredible athlete, and it takes a little time, but certainly Joe knew that he would be something special, I think, down the road, and just the hard work that Jamar put in. As I said, he's smart, so if you're willing to work hard and you got that kind of athletic ability, it's going to happen very fast. So it's just a great relationship. There's no doubt Joe wanted them to draft Jamar. He stayed pretty much out of the process, I believe, but I know they sensed who Joe wanted.
For sure.
Absolutely. This piece of paper.
Yes. Coach, isn't that his best attribute? And I know I'm speaking to his father, so it's hard to ask you these questions, but you understand the locker room, the game, and what it means. Isn't his best attribute is that he makes everybody around him better? You can see the buy-in from his teammates to where it's almost like a sacred event when they compete with Burrow, because you don't want to let him down. Yes. I mean, they have this feeling like, whether it's watching the defense, the wide receivers, the offensive line, the running, even the coaches have an air to them of like, we are accountable to 9. And from a coach standpoint, isn't that like the top of his scouting report, that he makes everybody better? Everybody's at his birthday party.
Yeah, I think leadership ability for a quarterback at any level, especially the NFL, is at the top of the list. And all those things you just said are definitely true. And but his ability also to process coverages and defenses is close behind. And so you combine those, and you put him with great receivers like we have, then you're seeing what the result of that is. But he's always had I think that ability to bring out the best in his teammates. He had a group in high school that went to the state championship, the group at LSU national championship, and now we're moving forward in the playoffs. And I think anybody that's watched him, even again since 3rd and 4th grade, would agree with you with that.
I love talking about that state championship game. What do you remember for that night? Because I think that game's gotten a lot of run here over the last couple of weeks.
Lost.
Right, like he was playing safety. Yep. He had an interception that night. He had a big defensive play that night. What do you remember about that game?
Well, we were talking about it going into Sunday's game because it was so cold, and I said, somebody said, "Well, isn't that cold weather going to bother Joe?" And I said, "I think the last time the coldest game he ever played in, he either threw 6 or 7 touchdowns, so I don't think it's going to bother him." But it was a great football game. It was one of those. Similar to maybe Sunday, because they had the ball last, and I know Joe's always looked back like, hey, I wish I'd have had one more chance, and he thinks about it. I thought maybe with all the mini games over the years that he's played at an elite level at LSU and now the Bengals, you might put it behind you. But I just saw him get asked that question not too long ago. And
Yeah.
he said he thinks about it every day. So hopefully one of these days the Super Bowl will put that behind him. But it was just a great day up in at Ohio State Stadium, and really all of Athens was there, and the Bulldogs put on a show. But it just at the very end, we came out on the short end of it. But he remembers, believe me.
I believe it. It sounded like an epic matchup when you hear that game described. Vrabel and the Titans this weekend, a hell of a matchup. They were off this weekend. Christian Fulton will probably draw the assignment of guarding Jamar Chase on Saturday afternoon. What do you know about the Titans, and what do you expect the challenge to be against this high-flying offense that Joey's bringing in?
Well, we played them last year before Joe got hurt, and we were able to beat them there in the Cincinnati. So there's some familiarity with what they do. I'm sure with Zach Taylor and the coaching staff, and even Joe and the guys. So it's going to be a great matchup. Zabel certainly does a great job on defense, and I think they do play to their defense, but they do a good job. They got weapons on offense, and I think the beast might be released this week too. So I'm sure he's ready to go there at running back. He's been out for a while. There's rumors he's healthy, so
put Joey in safety
you got to
again.
stop him if he's playing. You got to stop him. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Derrick Henry expected to go this weekend for a divisional round matchup versus Cincinnati. What a cool time to be a Bengals fan. What a cool time to be alive and to have some LSU flair in the mix, and having the passion down here of keeping up with the Bengals has been really fun, man. On Saturday, that was cool to watch the Bengals get the first postseason win in 31 years. I know, obviously, that you are a proud dad and a proud fan right now. Please tell Miss Robin and the crew hello for us down here in South Louisiana. Miss you guys down here, and best of luck this weekend.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate all the support of all the LSU fans, and it's going to be a fun game this weekend. Go Bengals.
Absolutely.
Coach, real quick, what are your thoughts on the glasses that Joey B was rocking at the press conference?
I wouldn't recommend them for him again, but
there's your wives.
Somebody said, "Well, what's going on?" I said, "That's just Joe being Joe." And there's
Absolutely.
some rumor maybe that Jamar had something to do with it, so I'm going to have to do a little more investigation.
We will find out next week, hopefully after a win, as we'll catch up with you. Thank you, Coach.
All right, talk to you guys later.
All right,
Thanks.
man, there he
Bye.
is, Joey. Jimmy Burrow checking in from Cincinnati this morning as he gives the latest. What a ride! What an incredible ride. You know, the first time that he watched his son play consistently was at his senior year at LSU. He was the defensive coordinator for Ohio for so many years. He missed so many moments and so many games that Burrow played, and now to have this ride. I mean, to really, I mean, I think he saw 2018 at Auburn was the only game that he went to. Or I think he went to the Miami game. I think he went to the opening game against Miami, and then he went to Auburn. And then he was able to watch him play in the Fiesta Bowl, were the only 3 times that he watched him play as a junior. And then he watches him play every single game in 19 and hasn't missed, obviously, a pro game.
Is there a
Since he's
bigger
been a pro.
compliment than, like, I'll quit my job, you're so good at football?
No doubt
Hey,
about it.
Dad, I love you. Thank you.
And they have that father-son bond where that meant, the world to Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah, they remember the Titans, except that Hayden Panettiere is Joe Burrow. They're watching film on the refrigerator when he was 10. Like,
Right.
This is who that guy is.
Cajun Ready Mix Concrete brings you the Jordy Culotta Show. We appreciate that conversation with Coach Burrow here on this Monday morning as Joe and the Bengals get ready for a road trip into Nashville for a daytime tilt versus the Titans, which is going to be frigid in Nashville as they get ready for the divisional round. Remember, over at Cajun Ready Mix Concrete, they provide ready mix concrete products and services to meet all of your concrete needs, whether your project is residential, commercial, industrial, or municipal. You can get in touch with Cajun Ready Mix Concrete. CajunRMC.com is where they are online. CajunRMC.com. 9 locations, 9 plant locations around the greater Baton Rouge area, which means if you order concrete or if you need concrete, it'll be there on time and to the exact specification. Get in touch with our friends Bradley Cairo and the entire crew over at Cajun Ready Mix Concrete at CajunRMC.com. That's CajunRMC.com. appreciate Coach Burrow. We'll talk recruiting coming up here in a couple of minutes as Billy Embody will stop by, as Embody has been covering recruiting, obviously, for a while now, and is in a bit of a transition. We'll talk to him about that, but we'll also talk to him about LSU basketball, picking up Marvell Allen on Saturday night. What does that mean for Will Wade and his crew? And then, obviously, this LSU football staff being filled out and completed with Cortez Hankton from the University of Georgia, who is a South Louisiana native. What does that mean for recruiting, and where does that place LSU with the likes of guys like Jacoby Matthews, and how do they close with a national signing day on the horizon? As Embody, now a part of On3 Sports, is where he is. Where you at? Covering college sports and covering college recruiting at On3 Sports. So make sure you give those guys a follow, and we'll get the latest on them from Embody.
Being where you are right now, would you rather be Jimmy Burrow or Joe Burrow?
It's a great question, Lloyd. Jimmy.
As a dad, you'd be more proud of your son than proud of yourself. I knew it.
Jay, look, I'm not. I don't want to. Yeah, you're single. Yeah, bro, you're 28.
Whoa, not single.
No.
Stop doing that
my
to
bad,
me, dude.
My bad. Just no kids.
Sarah's listening.
I just meant no kids. Is she?
Hey.
She texted me this morning. But you don't have any kids, is what I meant. That's what I meant. That you know of.
Right. If that thing was thrown away a long time ago, if it would exist.
Like Noah, I mean, you obviously, Joey, right?
Yeah, well, without a doubt.
For sure.
Without a doubt.
So you have to be a dad to.
Yeah, you do, man. And really kind of like
crazy.
Into it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, watching him play on Saturday morning, there's nothing better. I don't even remember playing anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even remember the thrill of making a play, right? Like, I don't even remember the thrill of...
Think.
If I did, I could.
Yeah.
But I don't want to anymore. Like, the moments that I see through him are more gratifying than I think they were for me, but they probably weren't. You know what I mean? Like, I still remember hitting my first home run. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. But, like... I don't want to sound like a douchebag, but like he had 24 Saturday morning against some pretty good competition. And it's like a thrill of your, I don't want to blow it up because it's not like a thrill of your life, but it's like
a proud dad moment.
There's nothing better than this right now. Like I would rather be I wouldn't even rather be on an island, but you know what I mean? Like this is as good as it gets. And to do that at that level, like, I can't even imagine, like, 2019. Like, forget doing it, like, for a professional franchise that hasn't done it for 31 years. I really can't imagine. And on Saturday morning, I was walking on clouds. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't have been in a better place just in watching him play and watching him do it at a high level and love it. Right? Like, he's out there loving it. And watching that is... I can't even imagine what the thrill of making those plays even feels like anymore when you have this type of elation presented to you, right? When you have like what Jimmy Burrow is going through, I bet he can't even describe it. If you really like sat down with him and was like, Coach, what's it like watching your son cut up NFL defenses? Guys, you know, like Gus Bradley's like calling him and being like, I don't know how we're going to stop this motherfucker. Yeah. Like this guy is a motherfucker. Like, I mean,
what did you do to him?
We can't blitz him. You can't sit back on him. You can't double Jamar. You can't, there's really, it's kind of like Brady, you know, where you're like, I don't know. We just cross our fingers and go in there with a plan that we hope works. Right?
You got to get lucky against him almost.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you do. You almost have to count on him to make mistakes, and then you see his numbers in big games, and you're like, "This guy he never
about to slice us up.
He doesn't mess up. He doesn't make that because wasn't that the deal about Breeze that you always loved? That you were like, man, he's always going to protect the football. like turnovers, you were like, holy shit.
Right, yeah,
he turned it over.
It was shocking when it happened.
It was
Joe
shocking.
Burrow was the same
and
feeling.
Burrow has that feeling to him. Like if he was to turn it over, you're like, wow, what did he see?
I didn't account for that.
Yeah, like,
but Tom Brady does that sometimes. They have that, and Drew Brees would do it too. Where
but
they
Brady
just got
takes
totally
a little bit
fooled.
more shot. Brady's a little bit more of a gambler than Brees is. Like even Burrow, you and I were talking about last night. I don't know, it wasn't here, but the CJ Uzomah pass down the middle of the field, where it looked like that Brees Archer accuracy video.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could not have put the ball on a 25-yard spot any better. I mean, he couldn't have put it into his hand.
The top of the helmet, and
it did
spin a little
and
better.
It did. It tightened the spin up.
He can't do that on purpose.
And he put it on his fingertips, man. I mean, it was the level at which Burrow is playing at right now is best in the world. I mean, he feels like an elite quarterback. And to say that out loud almost feels like you're biased, you're a moron. But I mean, you watch him play and you're like, bro, who's better? Who's better than this guy?
It might just be Brady and Mahomes. Like, it's top three. And then you got Rodgers. He's a top 4 quarterback in the league right now.
I know.
And Josh Allen.
I think Josh Allen, yeah. Josh Allen, too.
But you see what football is all about.
Right.
Like, and that's why if you're Cincinnati, you have to feel so good. It's like, oh, we have a guy that can compete with these.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like you have a dog in the fight because if you're Tennessee, you go into that matchup going, they got a better quarterback than we do.
Yeah.
He's better than Tannehill.
Yeah.
Like, you have to ride Derrick
Tannehill's
Henry.
a wide receiver.
Yeah. And shout out A&M. But like, you have to go into the game plan knowing that it's Derrick Henry. Like, Tannehill's not going to be the one to beat you. But if you're Tennessee, you're going, they got weapons on offense.
Yeah.
Like, the only chance you have is to get pressure on him, and Joey B's a little slick back there. Like, it doesn't look the best.
Right.
But he's always on his feet and always looking downfield.
But it is starting to look more natural.
yeah.
You know
It's
what I
still
mean?
a
Like,
little wonky.
I mean, he made a couple of slide steps on Saturday that opened up the passing lanes for him. That is so underappreciated athleticism.
Right.
Like, we have no idea
Tom
how
Brady.
athletic you have to be to simply just make a couple of slides and footwork drills to get out of the way of 6'5" to 6'8", 300-pounders that are running full speed downhill at you is just elite
Unfathomable.
athleticism. And Burrow is, man, he's got that so naturally. I mean, his athleticism to me has always been underappreciated or maybe undersold to his game. But that type of stuff that he is just making look very easy is level 10 hard. You know what I mean? Like,
That's the hardest part about
maximum
playing
hard. It
quarterback,
is,
right?
absolutely.
It's
To
that
see all
feel
that
in that
stuff
pocket.
happening around you and still be able to diagnose and digest where the open guy is, that is a true skill. That's why there's only like 5 or 6 people on the planet that can do it at a high level. You know what I mean? And it just so happens to be the ones that are still alive in the playoffs.
That's what football, like, that's what the NFL football is. As much parity as there is in the league. If you have one of the guys, you feel like it's the Saints. That's like when you had Drew Brees, like, we always have a chance.
Yeah,
like,
you got a shot.
It may be ugly, like sometimes when the defense was putrid, but you had an offense that you could throw for 400 yards if you want to. Like, there's always going to be points on the board. So that's what every NFL franchise is chasing, and since he's got a good one, and I'm jealous if they get him for 10 years, we got him for 2.
Shout out to Edward Jones and Daniel Newman. Great spot over the weekend with the tailgate. Newman and the crew. We saw the balcony Bengals over there before tip-off of LSU and Arkansas, but right there in section 105 or lot 105 on the backside of the field house. We know now that it is protected. There is no danger of rain under there. There may be some cold days ahead, but we will keep you dry for sure. We are going to plan another tailgate out there. I appreciate Daniel Newman for taking the steps of making that happen. It was cool to see a couple of you out there. Drunk Brian Kelly came by.
Yes, indeed.
On Saturday. And a couple of other listeners stopped in, so it was cool to see everybody out there. But we'll have a bigger one as it comes down the stretch here of LSU basketball. But remember, if you need any help with your finances, Daniel Newman can help you out. Daniel.Newman@edwardjones.com is where you get in touch with Newman. Daniel.Newman@edwardjones.com. He's in central Louisiana and can help you out. Magnolia Square out there next to Stabs is where his office is located. He can help you out with any questions you may have about investing, 401k. And if you work inside the plant industry over at Exxon, Dow, BASF, any of the plants around the area, or in the if you're listening to this and you work in the power industry, get in touch with Daniel Newman, as he really understands the fiscal setup of that industry and trade, and can help you out with any questions that you may have of life after work or investing or any type of 401k or Social Security questions that you may have about your jobs and your work and pay over within the plant industry. When we come back, we will talk to Billy Embody. Embody now a part of On3 Recruiting, which is covering recruiting at a college level. We will talk to Embody about some of the names on the board for LSU and some of the coaches that have been brought in and how they affect recruiting. Frank Wilson and Hankton now in New Orleans and South Louisiana. How strong does the LSU brand become in recruiting homes with that pitch being made? Where does LSU stand with Harold Perkins? Where does LSU stand
with Uncle Al?
With Jacoby Matthews? We will ask all of that to Embody next. If you have a recruiting question, get it inside the chat. We will talk to Embody next here on the Jordy Culotta Show, live, powered, and driven by Go Chevrolet. True Blue Water, true hydration at its finest. Right now, you're only a few minutes away from getting your 5-gallon water delivered to you, just like we are over here at the UDL. All you got to do is log on to truebluewater.com. That's TRU bluewater.com. The website's fantastic over at truebluewater.com. You can get your service and find out how quick it is. You can schedule a delivery, even hop on the billing system right there at truebluewater.com. TRU bluewater.com. Papa Earl's, the fine spice. Do you have questions about your finances? Are you looking for recommendations from a skilled financial advisor? Get in touch with our friend Daniel Newman over at Edward Jones. You can find him easily by logging online and shooting him an email at daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. That is daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. Whether it is help with your 401k or just fiscal advice heading into the new season, get in touch with Daniel today. Best way to do it? Email him, daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. He's our experienced financial advisor. Let him be yours, daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022, 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Check them out online at GEAUXchevrolet.com. Let's go to Billy Embody, who had an announcement a couple of weeks back that he was on the move, and he's landed with On3, who is covering college sports and recruiting. And this is a brand that if you're not familiar with, you will be in the next couple of weeks, months, and year, as it is making a big push to corner the market in college football recruiting and basketball recruiting. And covering that, as we know, in the area, there's a couple of dominant personalities that do that. Billy Embody is one of those. On3 made a great hire in bringing him aboard in covering South Louisiana recruiting and some other stops as well where he's been, places like SMU and Dallas, and covering that market as well. It's good to talk to Bill as always. Good morning, Billy. How are you?
Doing well, Jordy. How about you?
Doing good, man. Tell us about the move to On3. What was it? I know that this is a big brand, and this is something that comes with some experience in the recruiting space.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about it. You know, a lot of people know Shannon Terry, who started Rivals, started 24/7 Sports, and did a great job building up both of those. And this is his new venture, and the final one, as he puts it. And it's exciting. I mean, it's a similar model in the sense that you've got message boards, you've got recruiting rankings, you've got coverage of teams and all of that, but also with NIL becoming so big, we have an entire staff dedicated to covering that nationally and where that's going, and building a database of players and not only ranking them but also evaluating them and
assigning a value based on their social media following, where they play their college football or basketball at. We unveiled the NIL 100 this past week. So there's a lot of cutting edge things that they're unveiling over the next year or so and year and a half and beyond. And I just wanted to jump on board and get in on the ground floor. It's exciting, and it's going to be a heck of a time to cover LSU with, the way the basketball teams are playing and the new era with Brian Kelly. It's a good time to jump on board. I can say that much.
On3, make sure and give them a follow on Twitter at On3, as Billy Embody is here and will be a regular on this show, just like he always has been, given his knowledge on what the latest is for LSU. Let's start with the basketball front. A huge one on Saturday. Sixth straight class at Will Wade will have 5-star representation as Marvell Allen pledged his commitment to LSU. What do you know about Allen? How big of a commitment is this? And why so much success for LSU basketball in the state of Florida? They have really cleaned up in that market over the last couple of recruiting cycles, Bill. Why so successful for LSU over there?
I think it starts with relationships for Will Wade and Kevin Nickelberry in this case, who led the recruitment on the assistant front. You look back over the years of what they've been able to pull out, Emmett Williams, Darius Days. I'm missing guys, of course, but they've just done a terrific job building relationships. And talking with Marvell probably about 2 weeks ago now about where his recruitment stood and why LSU was right at the top, just the amount of phone calls Will Wade made to his parents. It kind of reminded me of Cam Thomas in that sense of just how the recruitment went, with how much focus Will Wade and Kevin Nickelberry put on getting Marvell and his family on board to play for LSU, just the constant communication. And one thing I just kind of picked up is just, how strong of a character kid this is in Marvell Allen. He really, really is mature, knows the amount of work it's going to take him from that 5-star point guard status to being an NBA draft pick, which is what obviously all of these guys want to do. And the way LSU's developed guards, I think, has really stood out. But in terms of recruiting Florida, I think it's just a relationship thing. One of Marvell's coaches actually played for Will Wade and Kevin Nickelberry at Clemson, so that played a big role here as well.
Julian Phillips is another guy that they were able to get in this cycle, and it looks like Marvell Allen. I know that there was some discussion. They've had some success in doing this. Justice Williams reclassified for them and got in this past recruiting class. There's some undertones that Allen may be a guy that could be reclassified. Have you heard anything on that front?
I do think Marvell is someone who's going to end up reclassifying, and that just seems like the norm almost in college basketball now. When you see a prospect commit as early as they do, in this case being a quote 2023 prospect, they end up reclassifying to that 2022 class in this case. And the Tigers need an elite point guard to come in. They could have Adam Miller back next year, depending on what he wants to do. He was so highly thought of when he left Illinois, but I'm sure Will Wade will be recruiting him to come back. They'll have Justice Williams back, and they do have Eric Gaines, but they needed somebody like this to really drive the bus. And as far as a scorer, I mean, this is Marvell Allen's game. I mean, he can score, he can pull up and hit the jumper. He's being, a better facilitator as of late as well. And that's something that Will Wade in this pick and roll that's becoming more and more prevalent in their offense is what you want to see. So this was a huge addition for LSU, especially next year.
Julian Phillips, his addition to LSU next year as well. Look, Billy, I know that this team right now is in the midst of an SEC playoff or an SEC chase, and really playing well right now, even though they're coming off of a loss. They have a big week ahead. But I'm not sure that people are really realizing or ready for how good they might be next year.
Yeah, they're going to be, once again, very, very good. And that's the thing with Will and how he's been able to build the roster and build the team is, they're picked regularly in that 5-6 range in the SEC, and each year they've been in the top 3 or won the league or what have you. They always go over the top as far as their expectations from the media, and maybe that there might be a little bit of bias in that sense, but just from where they're picked to where they end up, and I expect them to be just as good as they are this year. Just being honest, I really think the talent they're bringing in, they found the right mix of talent and character. That was the big thing that we heard over the summer was just, how hard these guys worked. Somebody like Brandon Murray coming in as a freshman and just pushing guys and really pushing them over the top in terms of, getting more out of Xavier Pinson and some of these older guys that have actually been around, but you have a freshman come in and he's helping build the culture in that sense. And so they've found a lot of these character guys that are, taking this program to the next level.
Billy Embody, who covers recruiting for On3 Recruiting. You can follow him on Twitter at Billy Embody to catch up with the latest. LSU football rounds out their coaching hires with their 10th on-the-field spot. The last guy that'll be wearing the headset is going to be Cortez Hankton, who is a South Louisiana native, a St. Aug alum, New Orleans. He's from New Orleans and has spent the past couple of seasons as the wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator for the University of Georgia. What do you know about Hankton? What does his addition to the football staff mean for Kelly, both on the trail and on the field?
And I think for one, let's start with on the trail. Somebody from New Orleans, St. Aug alum. I mean, we know what Frank Wilson can do and has done, but to add another familiar face for Louisiana coaches, players, all of that, this is big. And it just, again, solidifies, I think, Brian Kelly's credibility in the state. He is a quote-unquote outsider and from, the Midwest and hasn't ventured down to the South to coach college football yet. But here he is pushing the right buttons to get somebody like Cortez Hankton in to round out the staff. And he's done a really good job recruiting at a high level. George Pickens was a 5-star receiver out of Alabama that he got. He went into New Orleans and got Cedric Van Pran and pulled him out. Even after a late push from LSU. And he's done some good things as well. He recruited Major Burns out of New Orleans and has done a good job just overall nurturing those relationships and also being able to recruit nationally as well. There's some really talented prospects in the 2023 class that took notice when Cortez Hankton put up his thank you to Georgia as his departure kind of became official. And so that's kind of something to know on the recruiting trails. I think he's going to be a really strong addition in that sense. And then a lot of Georgia fans, talking to them, are really high on his ability to coach up these receivers.
Yeah.
And, as much grief as Georgia got, and deservedly so, for being so, in the past as far as offense goes, their receivers have done a good job under Cortez Hankton, at least being ready to go and, being able to make plays in an offense that really didn't add much creativity. So he did more with less in that sense, but he's going to have just as much talent at LSU at the wide receiver position. So there's some high expectations with Cortez Hankton jumping on board.
Fred Jackson inside of the chat, hashtag Ask Billy. Billy, who did Brian Kelly keep on the recruiting staff player personnel department for LSU? Do you know how he's rounding that department out? Because as we've seen over the last couple of years, a lot more of the budget has been thrown to that specific part of football operations. What does LSU look like in that department, if you know anything?
Yeah, they have actually kept a few guys, and then they've added some as well. They kept guys like Mason Smith, Will Redmond, and J.R. Belton on the staff. And then they've also added some new names. They've added guys like Mike Ferrara. They've added, there are some others out there, Sherwin Wilson, Jordan Arcimo, guys like that, to really step up the, I think, communication that players receive from LSU just overall. That's something that when you look at the staffs, and this isn't as much like a shot at Ogeron, but this is where Brian Kelly might need help, quote unquote, is recruiting and just communication and pushing on that front. And so they've prioritized hiring quite a few new names just to be recruiting specialists, additions to the scouting department, to get out ahead of some of these recruits early on and get after them and let them know that, they're a priority. And I think that's kind of the difference we're seeing right now is the massive analyst staff that LSU had on the field side of things might translate more so to the recruiting side under Brian Kelly. And And I think with the way college football is going nowadays with NIL and transfers and all of that, you've got to have guys that know, obviously, how to communicate, how to relate, how to have relationships that not only last through recruitments, but even when they go to college and if they do enter the portal, if somebody has a relationship there, you could reach out when they hit the portal and get out ahead of it and get a visit set and start recruiting them again and pick up where you left off. That's kind of a new age of college football recruiting is, you don't want any bad blood between yourself if somebody goes somewhere else to play college football, because a year later they might be in the portal or sooner in some cases. So you want those relationships to be strong. I think that's where they're building out the staff really, really well. That's been a big priority, and they got a lot of those hires done in the last week or so.
A couple of players, Billy, where do they stand going into signing day in a couple of weeks? Let's start with Jacoby Matthews. What's the latest on the 5-star safety from Ponchatoula?
He just said his last official visit to take, and that's going to be LSU, and I love where the Tigers sit for Jacoby Matthews. I think Alabama, Florida, and LSU are the names you're going to hear the most as of, at least from what I heard in the past week or so. I think those are the three that are going to battle it out, probably a little bit more so an LSU-Florida battle. I like where LSU stands, and at this stage, I think the Tigers are the team to beat.
Harold Perkins.
Harold Perkins has talked about setting an official visit to end up taken at LSU. I'm a little skeptical of the Tigers' chances right now, just because he is fresh off that A&M commitment. I think we all know what the NIL opportunities that are being floated around are with just a lot of the Texas A&M class, and that being a priority for them. And I think LSU's coming along on that front, as we know, and you had Gordon McKernan on, and he dished on that. But I think LSU is if they get him on campus, they're obviously going to roll out the red carpet. He's somebody with Louisiana ties, position of need as a 5-star linebacker. I think there's a chance, LSU could change things and give him something to think about where he changes his mind. But right now, I would just be cautious on having too much optimism on getting Harold Perkins. But they're going to hope that he can land on campus for an official visit at the very least.
Danny Lewis, tight end out of Westgate, who had a really good senior season, who just picked up the offer in the last couple of weeks.
He did have a really good senior season, capped it with his MVP performance in the state championship, and I think LSU is going to host him here very soon for an official visit, and I really like where LSU stands. Mike Denbrock was his recruiter at Cincinnati and knows what he can do and the offense that he was recruiting him for on that front. So I think things are lining up for LSU to land another Westgate kid, and that would help just because next year, 2023, they've got a 5-star safety in Derek Williams. That's going to be a huge priority for the staff as well.
One more on a high school, and then we'll get to some of these transfer portal guys. Trevante Citizen, running back out of West Louisiana, out of Southwest Louisiana in Lake Charles.
Trevante Citizen is an interesting one, but I think LSU is going to be able to chip away at this one and find a way to keep him at home. I think even though we're transitioning from the Ed Ogeron era where we're so used to all these guys staying home in Louisiana, for the most part, to the Brian Kelly era where we don't know what that's going to look like. I think LSU just has a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to change things. And Miami and Florida are going to be right in the thick of it for Trevante Citizen. They've got official visits set. LSU can host him again as well, so maybe they fit him in at some point. But I just think Frank Wilson and this staff that they've had, some of these guys that have been recruiting him for a minute, they're going to be able to find a way. I mean, Miami and Florida, that's a long way from home, and sometimes these guys just end up staying in Louisiana. And I think Trevante Citizen could be one of them.
What have you made on how they've cleaned up in the transfer portal? Have they cleaned up in the transfer portal? How good are these players that they're getting in the portal?
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job, and here's why. You can get, like we saw with West Weeks over the weekend, a Virginia linebacker who played a lot as a true freshman, does have an injury that he's recovering from. He's going to be ready to go for spring ball, though. But he's got 4 years, and he's got that amount of time to play and contribute. And he's shown he can do that at a Power 5 level. Then you get guys like Joe Fouché, 1 year left, or Greg Brooks, who's only has a couple years left that can contribute, but you're not having to reach on a high school prospect who might tie you down for 4 to 5 years, so to speak, if they really like going to school at LSU. And that's kind of the good thing about the portal is if you have needs, and LSU has plenty, they can go out and find players that they can address those needs with right away, and they might not be tied down to them for those 4 to 5 years. Then you look at Kyron Lacey, multiple years left. He's a really, really talented prospect. Noah Kane, 2 years left as a running back, and he's had some injury issues, but he's also doesn't have a lot of wear and tear. And he's a Baton Rouge kid who's coming home to play for LSU. And I think he's got the talent to contribute at the running back room, which we saw where that can go south pretty quickly with injuries and depth. And so they needed to add another player there, and they did that in Noah Kane. And just overall, I think they've done a really good job addressing needs so far with the transfer portal. I don't think they're done. And that's the thing that is kind of fun to follow about the portal is it is truly a year-round thing that you're monitoring, whether it's guys entering or guys taking visits, or maybe right before fall camp, somebody entering the portal, hearing that they're not going to see playing time or be in the right spot, and they need a fresh start, and a school scoops somebody up that ends up being a difference maker, and that's the type of things that can happen from time to time, and LSU fans are going to have to keep an eye on it. Especially this offseason, just because they do have a lot of spots to work with on that front.
You kind of touched on what I was going to ask you next, but you mentioned how many spots they have left in the transfer portal. And when you look at LSU players' social media, every time somebody pops, they're like, LSU's not even close to done yet. Do you know or have an idea of who's left that LSU may be targeting that's still in the portal?
Yeah, so right now I have them at 21 overall guys committed or signed. So they have 14 they have what's the math there? 11 spots left. Sorry, guys. Not a big math guy. Yeah. So they have 11 spots left, and the top targets, I think, one, Mekhi Wingo, the Missouri defensive lineman who played for assistant coach Robert Steeples at DeSmit there in St. Louis. That's the top target. He's just wrapping up an official visit to USC. He's probably the biggest one that's out there right now, just that we know of. And then Tremont Shorts, East Tennessee State offensive lineman, who's on an official visit as well. He's somebody that they're pushing for, and had some other Power 5 opportunities as far as visits go. We'll see. I think LSU sits in the driver's seat for him as well. Those are the two big names just right now off the top of my head that I'm really monitoring down the stretch here. And I think LSU sits in the driver's seat for both of those players, and both of them would come in and probably be day one starters, quite honestly. And Mekhi Wingo is kind of the complete opposite of Tremont Shorts. Tremont Shorts has 1 year left. He's a big 6'5", 335-pounder. But Mekhi Wingo has 4 years to play 3, and he was an all-SEC freshman at Missouri this year, which is, that's a good start. Those are guys that you want in your program. Get them in, develop them, and finish out their careers the right way.
You just said there's guys that you want on your team, and it seems like Brian Kelly has done a good bit of housekeeping with LSU football, whether it be you see Dwight McLaughlin in the transfer portal, you saw Trey Palmer hit the transfer portal. Is there a little bit of him kind of resetting the culture, it feels like, whether it be through the transfer portal or just kind of cleaning house on the LSU end and what he wants to build there and kind of getting some of the old regime out?
Yeah, I think that is a big part of it, quite honestly. And LSU is seeing some of these guys enter the portal, and it makes a lot of sense. I think some of these guys, you guys follow it just like I do day to day. You hear this or that or whatever, and I think a lot of these guys that you have heard this or that about are entering the portal and looking for fresh starts. Some don't make sense. I think Dwight McLaughlin is somebody from the outside that a lot of people were surprised by, but that one, he was suspended for the bowl game, and so he looked for a new, fresh start. Trey Palmer, didn't get off on the right foot with Brian Kelly, looking for a new place to go. And I think that's just where you're seeing complete opposites, hit and collide in terms of the culture that was in place and what Brian Kelly's going to look to build. But on the other hand, I talked with BJ Ojulari last week, you guys know, and he was just, very complimentary of the new strength staff and what they're going to do. And he's excited to be, one of the leaders on this team. And there's going to be guys like that you lean on throughout this entire process to be, that cornerstone of a rebuild, quite honestly. And in the transfer portal, you've got to do your research on these players and find ones that fit your culture very well and that are also going to be competitive and motivated. And I think that's one thing with the portal guys that they brought in so far, especially you look at the secondary, Mekhi Garner, Joe Boucher, Greg Brooks, all got to be highly motivated. In the last two, Boucher and Brooks, they're Louisiana natives, getting a chance to play for LSU and finish out their careers. Mekhi Garner, he's played a lot down the road at UL, now comes over for his final 2 years. This is his audition for the NFL, as he put it to me. He worked out with Damone Clark and saw what he did over the summer going into this Butt Kiss Award finalist season. And he said, that's what I want to be a part of. That's the work ethic that I want to put in and make my own, name in the NFL draft circles and step up and, also being able to play in Tiger Stadium and be a part of the changing culture. So it's going to be a hard, long process for Brian Kelly, but he's done it and he's been able to do it at multiple stops. And he's also been able, if things maybe hit a roadblock, like at Notre Dame, they didn't have one of their better seasons and he made some changes and, they ripped off a few 10-win seasons in a row. So LSU is somebody that's very experienced building a program, and that's really important when you look at all this.
Billy, last one. We'll get you out of here. Appreciate your time. Follow Billy Embody on Twitter at Billy Embody. The staff is now final. Cortez Hankton is in. He's the wide receivers coach, which rounds out the 10. What do you make of this staff, the first one that Kelly will go to war with?
I was at the coaches convention in San Antonio and got a chance to catch up with some of them, and also got a chance to catch up with coaches around the country that, actually made a big deal out of what Brian Kelly's put together. And, whether it's recruiters and guys that have really been known doing that, or really solid position coaches or coordinators and just consistently good coaches, that's what Brian Kelly seems to have put together. And I think that allows for a lot of stability. And in turn, when you come to a place like LSU, as we've seen with the last three head coaches here, you have a chance to do something special. And I do think that at some point we'll probably see Brian Kelly be able to lift the national championship trophy. That's what history suggests. The staff he's put together is a strong one. You have some of the, honestly great young coaches and assistant coaches in college football with, Jamar Kane and Joe Sloan and some of the Cortez Hankton and probably Robert Steeples too. And then you have some veterans and Mike Denbrock and Brian Polian and Matt House and Brad Davis. We all saw what he can bring to the table, and Kerry Cooks has been around for quite some time. So I think it's a great mix of young and old and recruiting and coaching, and it really came together really nice.
Billy Embody over at On3 Recruiting. Follow him there at Billy Embody. Same great information, just at a new place. He will be here routinely on the Jordy Culotta Show. Great to talk to you, Bill. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Always. There's Billy Embody checking in this morning here, a part of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. As we said, remember, daily, we are brought to you by RMB Builders, our friends over at RMB Builders, rmb-builders.com. Get in touch with Rhett Bourgeois and his crew, no matter the construction project that you are looking for, whether you're looking for a brand new customized home over at RMB Builders that you want to design from the ground up, they can build it for you, or whether you're looking for some restoration at the house that you're living in now, or if you just need some handiwork done around that house or office, they are commercially licensed for projects that they can help you out in the commercial space as well. rmb-builders.com, rmb-builders.com is where you find them online, and they are the best. We have personal testimonies from everybody on the crew. They have helped us get into the new DL. They have helped us when our houses had flooded. Katie was dealing with some problems at her house. RMB and Rhett really took care of them over there at Katie's house, and just experiences have been fantastic. And it's not just been one, it's been multiple. So he's carrying that over no matter who you are or who he's working with. Rhett Bourgeois and his crew, very easy to deal with. Get in touch with them at rmb-builders.com, rmb-builders.com. He's our good friend, Rhett Bourgeois. Tell him you heard it here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Good show here on this Monday. Looking forward to 11 a.m. here on the FM Digital Media Network as we debut and launch our inaugural show with Mic'd Up. Mikey Mahtook, the former All-American first-round pick baseball player at LSU, is now starting to think a little bit about life after baseball as he's given it a couple of more goes. He'll be with a team in spring training as soon as they get all of the lockout stuff figured out, and he'll be on he'll have an opportunity in the spring, but really starting to think about what life after ball is going to look like, and he's getting in to the podcasting and media world, and he's starting it right here at FM Digital Media with his show that cranks up this morning at 11 a.m. titled Mic'd Up. Make sure that you are following that page on YouTube, the Mic'd Up YouTube page, as him and Kevin Gaussman will sit down today in the opening show as Gaussman gives his first interview since he inked the $100 million deal with the Toronto Blue Jays in this offseason as he was in San Francisco the past 2 years, really establishing himself and has become one of the dominant pitchers within the bigs and has now got the big contract to show for it. He'll sit down with his friend Mikey Mahtook to talk all about that at 11 a.m. this morning. 11 to 1 o'clock, Mic'd Up, man, right here on the FM Digital Network. It's a big day for us. We're looking forward to what that show is going to look like, sound like, feel like, and you'll have the opportunities to view it at 11 o'clock this morning. Make sure you're following it on YouTube. In fact, on our YouTube page, on the Jordy Culotta Show YouTube page, you can see right there a link to subscribe to Mic'd Up with Mikey Mahtook. So if you're on our page, if you're going to grab some content, looking for content, just simply click that subscribe button right there. So we've gone over 100.
Let's go.
As I'm looking right now, 115 subscribers.
Gear, Noah. Different gear.
115 subscribers. So good stuff, man.
I don't think you're going to get off the hook so easy. I saw what you were doing on Twitter while we were doing that interview, dude. Are you kidding me? You're going back and forth with, who's this guy?
Yeah, this is the guy, Jazzy, bro.
I see you out there.
Another federal government.
He works for the federal government?
Sounds like it. Or I asked him if it was Pat Forty's burner account.
And he didn't like that. Because it might be.
Right.
I mean,
look at this. That's my favorite. What planet are you on? Multiple tape recordings of Wade. Get your head out of the LSU sand. He's done some bad things that will come back to haunt LSU. Sure, Jazzy. When, buddy? When? Just this past November, look, he links the Pat Forty article. No information in there, Jazzy. That's a trash article. Zero information. Copy and paste on a 3-year story. Nothing on the feds. What else you got? Are you Pat Forty, buddy?
This is the attention you wanted. Here you are. How dumb.
Yeah. I thought you would have more of a reply than that. I can't go back and forth with somebody so out of touch,
Jazzy. Like you can. It seems like you can.
I mean, buddy. All I know is that there's another 5-star in Baton Rouge.
I hate to see it.
Wake up. I said, stay asleep.
Oh, my goodness.
That's so good. Oh. I knew you were over there doing something. You were typing furiously. It's like, he's in a fight over there. I don't know what you're doing, but it can't be. It's not Billy Embody related. I knew that.
Unbelievable. Good stuff from Billy today. Great stuff from Jimmy Burrow. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button. Come back with us at 11 o'clock here on FM Digital Media as Mic'd Up, Mikey Mahtook's show will launch and debut on what is Mahtook's wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
Who knew? A lot of good stuff. A lot of good synergy from Mic'd Up. As Mic'd Up and...
big day for him, I'd imagine.
It
Probably
is.
a big morning. I wonder why. That's why he's not here.
Yeah, right. Quiet in the chat, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Time to get out of bed.
All right, have a great day. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., but FM Digital Media will be back with you at 11 a.m. this morning for Mic'd Up. So tune in.
Have a good day, and then we'll see you again.